Now, the African Film Festival has been running here in London for the last week or so, showcasing the work of African filmmakers. We've had a variety of great guests here on Arise, from award-winning directors and actors to the up-and-comers making their mark in the industry. As the film festival comes to a close this weekend, we take a look at the festival as a whole and question whether there is truly a place for African filmmakers in the international film market. Well, to discuss this, we're joined now by Arise News African arts reporter Adora Mba. Great to see you here. What has the reception been like for Film Africa this year?
I think it's been a great month for African arts in general in the UK, actually. But Film Africa, this was its 5th time doing it in the UK, and I think it was its biggest. I mean, for the first time, they had more than one venue. It was venues across the whole of London, and I think there were 60 movies that they showed, from documentaries to short films, encompassing the whole of different types of African movies and producers and directors. And what I found actually interesting is this is the first time, usually, this type of thing, Film Africa caters to the African diaspora and Africans. But now it's everyone and anyone. There were Europeans or people from across the continent, Americans, Asians watching. So instead of being, an African film festival, it was a film festival. Just,
Absolutely. Now, of course, 60 films is quite a lot to wade through. I mean, any films or directors that stood out for you?
I mean, for me personally, there were 2. Idris Elba's Mandela, My Dad and Me, which is a documentary of an hour. This was interesting because originally, Idris was Mandela during the film Mandela Walk to Freedom. I was doing research in Mali and South Africa, and the director, Daniel Vernon, was just filming him just more for research. Then during that trip, his father died. So suddenly it became this really profound, really emotional documentary. And it was the first time you see, an actor in, not in his element, in a different country, and then actually experiencing these real emotions with him. So that was great. And then the second one, of course, was our guest of yesterday, Kivu. And
brilliant young man.
Amazing, he's so talented. Things of the Amos Wanderer. I just love the movie. I think the whole thing is so... It's deep and dark, and it's raw. It touches on issues that people don't want to talk about. Black femininity, issues of colonialism, racism. So no, it's great. Those are the 2.
As you mentioned, there's been an awful lot going on in London around Africa, from film festivals to art exhibitions. How much is that a touchstone for more widespread international acceptance of African art and culture?
I think it's the beginning. I think all of this is so amazing. It shows that there's an interest in Africa, not just as a continent of artifacts and traditions, but now everything. People are now wanting to get involved with the art scene, with the film, contemporary and modern. It's not just traditional things. So I think if it starts here in the UK like this, next is going to be France, and then, Spain, and then of course America, who's always pioneered difference in places like Africa as well. But
absolutely. But of course, the international film market, as you hinted, there is heavily saturated with American and European movies. How can African filmmakers crack that market?
It is a tough industry. I think at the moment African films hold 1% in the whole cinema industry in this country. But I think, things like this, like Film Africa and all these new festivals catering specifically to African filmmakers and African films is good. And for the first time as well this year, Tribeca Film Festival, Cannes Film Festival had more than 3 or 4 African movies in it. So it's gradual, definitely. But as I said, now there's definitely space for it to grow in the market. It's not going to be quick at all, but now at least there's more interest. I think it's the beginning of something special.
Brilliant. Adora, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.